Welcome back to BLOCKTV, and you're watching Traders Take, where we get to take a look at the crypto charts to break them down a bit and understand what's going on, especially after a weekend like the one we had. A lot of people are saying fastest recovery in history, but of course we have to turn to Joe Saz, BLOCKTV's technical analyst from New York, to break that down for us for real. How are you, Joe?
Excellent, thanks. How are you?
We're great. It's good to have you back from Bali in nice New York this time. But again, crazy weekend. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like it's really hard to say where we are because, you know, again, I think my famous last words a couple days ago were, you know, what happened last time we went 30% in a single day, you know, 20% plus, you know, we went parabolic, and so I'm really worried trying to figure out how am I going to get a grip of this market. And I'll tell you what I see, and, you know, as I see it, but man, it's a tough call right now. Okay, so this is like, there are asterisks all up and down everything anyone is saying. I don't care who it is. This is just an unprecedented move, and I believe from this price zone, it makes it even more unique of a situation. So what I'm going to share, obviously, you know, the best analysis that I can, but I want to stress the point that, like, I don't care who's saying it. Everyone's taking a shot in the dark right now. But you know,
we believe it, Joe.
Yeah, it's well, you know what I mean? Like, look at this. You know, 10% in a single candle is just like, this is just craziness. It would have been great to catch it, don't get me wrong. I would have been ecstatic. But you know, we kind of looked at the 15-minute chart. When we saw this at scale, it was big, you know, and then obviously this is bigger at scale, and then we have massive at scale. So it's like we have this massive move that brings us up out of, like, from the grave straight to 10K over a matter of hours. It was just so much intensity. And, you know, the worst part about it, we did pull back pretty quickly. We did retrace pretty quickly, but we didn't retrace to a point where I'm convinced that this was just a pump. And that's like what I'm saying is, like, you've been talking to a bear for a number of months. And right now I'm like more than ever close to being bullish. And it's all because of another single day activity that just shot the market into overdrive. Now, you know, so basically, what's really making it? What's the driving force behind that decision? You know, we did have a nice pullback, and it's not uncommon for Bitcoin to retrace about 50% of the value or so of a pump. In this case, about 75, and that's kind of like where it caps out, 50 to 75%. So on a very technical, you know, just basic understanding of how Bitcoin moves and breathes, it's acted, you know, according to its normal behavior patterns. But where it starts to get difficult is what's going to happen next. You know, we've kind of came back, and this is kind of what I call like a W curve, where we have like one line of the W, this is a second, then we come back, you know, to the wick space, and we're sitting in it. And this isn't even a wick space, this is body space. So, you know, it's a little bit different. We're using a bit more imagination than I like, but we've started to pull back. The thing is, it doesn't look like we're breaking down. It doesn't look like there's anything crazy. I want to just get to the daily because, you know, this is where I'm trying to see if I can find some insight, and this is probably where it would be. This is where I would say that it looks like we're feeling toppy. We had a crazy move to the upside. We spent a little bit of time in the wick space of this candle. We've even made a higher local high relative to yesterday, but we've turned inverted hammer, and this is like, you know, this is starting to round off and create a top. Now, that's like, you know, I'm telling you, I have to get rid of my, you know, I have to really, like, just clean my headspace clear. You know, I need to go from what was a very bearish mentality to the most neutral mentality that I could possibly muster, because obviously there were buyers, whether it was just one, it can't just be one explanation for this. Like, even my Tether exodus explanation doesn't account for a $3,000 price move. It just simply can't. I just don't see the numbers there. Like 50 billion, it's just not there. There's only 4 billion Tether. You know what I'm saying? Like, this market move was massive. So even if, you know, even if I might be partially right, I'm certainly not completely right. And that's where I'm very confused. I need to figure out where the, you know, where do I, what data can I use to complete the picture? So, you know, back to the daily, I would say that, you know, right now what I'm seeing is what I would typically feel very, I would feel like we've reached a top. And this is me deleting my bearish or bullish bias completely. I would say that we're creating a top and that we're probably going to come back down, but I don't know where. I don't know if we're going to get support from any of these moving averages. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know if we're just going to go straight up from here. I'm currently not taking any positions. I'm waiting at least like another 2 or 3 days, but I'm saying that from a neutral perspective, this looks to me like we're starting to create a top. And you know, I'll just keep it simple for now because, you know, again, right now everything's a shot in the dark and we're going to have to take this day by day.
Absolutely. So you're saying 2 to 3 days until we can kind of feel more comfortable naming, let's call it, what's going on here. So then shifting gears, we know, you know, Bitcoin is one confusing mess, but so is the rest of the altcoin market. So moving on to Ethereum, that naturally got pulled up with Bitcoin itself. What's going on with Ethereum?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, yeah, let's take a stop. Let's take the scenic route there. Bitcoin is at somewhere around 70% dominance, taking a step down from just under 70.5. All right, so really, honestly, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. We're just going to keep moving. What's purple though? BNB has taken dominance up, gone up against Bitcoin. All right, so quickly, Litecoin has taken its pullback. I mean, this is actually looking all very similar. Let's see, 14% day, 5% day. Yeah, so we're all looking pretty similar across the board, except where we are underneath the. Let's go to Bittrex, Ethereum, Bitcoin. Oh, actually, I should be using US dollar for now. Relative to Bitcoin, everything's taken quite a tumble already. Bitcoin pumps and altcoins are, you know, 10% over the past 3 days down. I'd be curious to see what Litecoin looks like to that, but let's take a quick look at FUSD, because again, it gets kind of complex here. Let's use Coinbase. Coinbase has some valuable valid info. All right, so yeah, this turned much more inverted hammer, as you can see on this daily candle there. The daily went inverted hammer. Actually, that's kind of a borderline spinning top. We're right in between all these moving averages. Has the 50 bullish crossover. Oh, we're on the 2-day. All right, weird. Let's get out of the 2-day. I forgot that was there. We were trying to combine days the other day. So we actually didn't really respond to this pump, you know, nearly as beautifully as Bitcoin did. In the case of Bitcoin, we had a death cross, but our death cross was of the short and long-term moving averages. Let's just confirm real quick. Bitcoin had, yeah, the orange is the short-term moving average, which is the 50, and the blue is the long-term moving average, which is the 200. Up here is the 128-day moving average. So we did meet resistance somewhere, you know, according to a technical indicator. But that's the thing, you know, we did a similar pop, and if this was like, you know, the equivalent, I would say we would have shot all the way up here. So Bitcoin definitely took the biggest move, and altcoins have already began rejecting some of that action. I wouldn't say I mean, obviously, we're looking at pretty similar technical pictures across the board here, and I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't think this is very amazing. The fact that to me, the thing that really makes this drive home for me is that wick space is always rejection space. You know, that's kind of how I interpret a wick. A wick is where the price was rejected and we came all the way back down. So I would say alts are looking bad, and Bitcoin is still looking like it's rounding out and creating a top. Litecoin was looking the same, and I know we had a couple other pops. Do we want to take a look across the board at some of these shittier shitcoins?
Well, I mean, with Ethereum specifically, you know, shitcoin, your term, I'll go with mine here. But Ethereum, I think, sparks more controversy and confusion than just talking about Bitcoin straight up. There seems to be a consensus there versus Ethereum, but we'll go with your vibe there. It hasn't been good with for a while, and I mean, we're just watching this tumble and seeing it as it happens. Now, I'm curious, just a couple of months ago, or yeah, just a couple of months ago, it was, you know, alt season. It's happening now. We're here. But now with this China narrative, I am curious to see specifically Tron ahead of a big announcement seems to have shot up completely. What's going on?
Yeah, well, first off, keep in mind, I was not one of those alt season believers.
Of course, I'm speaking headlines purely, Joe.
Yeah, I thought that was a garbage call. Like, people need to analyze where the money's coming from. And this Chinese thing is interesting. I haven't done all the research. As you know, I was on a plane for like 26 hours. But Here I am, feet on the ground. This is, you know, Tron had it for a while. It was really spending a lot of time close to these moving averages. And let's see, we broke above. We haven't looked at Tron for a while, so I'm just taking a quick look back. And it's always interesting that these you know, BNB and Tron share this in this very similar, interesting similarity that they have a lot of wicks. There's just like spinning top after spinning top, so much wick space in both directions. Now we did pump. All right, let's look at the value of this pump. Let's just switch to the weekly so we can see the totality of this pump. 24% onto a 5% move with about triple or double and a half that wick space. So there's definitely some rejection at the 50. So let's get back to the daily. All right, higher high. We had some support that was broken. We double topped and found a new high. Broke below it pretty seamlessly, pretty violently. I mean, we had a little bit of a stall, broke through. Now we're coming back to test it, and there's a huge reversal hammer. So that's pretty much our weekly information right now. Let's take a look back at the daily. We had a death cross of the short intermediate, or the intermediate and long-term moving averages, short intermediate, short long over here. The short-term moving average is now curving up. A lot of volume to justify this upside action. So there's definitely demand. Maybe if there is an alt season, it might be coming. I need to, like I said, I need about 2-3 days before I really get back in touch with the market. But this isn't looking bad. You know, we broke a trend into a lower low. We're supported by the 50 EMA. We're fighting with the intermediate term moving average spot 3 times. Made our way to you know, we gave the 200 moving average a little you know, we just gave it a little slap in the face. You know, just a little hello. But we're having trouble struggling with this intermediate term moving average for now. So I'm a little curious how this is going to play out. There is a lot of external hope, and obviously we know the space to know that hope is more than enough to drive the price. Anyone with money is willing to throw money at crypto, right? They're willing to sell their cars and their houses and their XYZ for crypto, for, you know, and considering that hope, I really think we need to address the psychology of this. And one of the important things here is, if China is expressing some bullish news, for example, you know, the acceptance, or let's say they're not attacking cryptocurrency as hard as they once were, well, then why wasn't mining FUD just, you know, a number of months ago as nearly as dangerous as it would have been in early 2018? So the question here is, you know, what's actually driving this run? I can't imagine a scenario where, being that it's mostly just traders trading, something like this kicks them into overdrive, into buy mode. So I'm really trying to figure out, is this an institutional thing, a silent institutional thing? You know, I'm really starting to lean that way, because again, I think it's been a very isolated space for too long, and it's very possible that the smart money has been sharpening their blades. We're waiting for the perfect moment, the psychological moment, to really take this market to the next level, which it is now. We're at the next level. I mean, we were in serious bearish breakdown mode, created a new low, and now we're seeking, you know, potentially a higher high. So yeah, I think that, you know, the Chinese thing, I just want to take, I don't want to put too much emphasis on it, because if we're going to focus on the bad and it didn't do anything, then the good can't really be doing too much just yet.
Right. I mean, perhaps after that announcement is made, then, you know, just speculating here again, but that'll lose, you know, Tron will lose that momentum, but only time can tell us that. And I would like to get into this last one here, XRP, our favorite. Recently, Brad Garlinghouse coming out saying that MoneyGram is dying for them to push forward and move on, but they are not willing to, because Ripple wants to make sure they're clear within regulatory reason.
Huh. Interesting. Well, got a lot I could say about that. Well, technically speaking, all right, let's just focus technicals here, because there's a lot going on. These moving averages are all over the place. You know, I'm going to get rid of some lines here and just kind of clear this up. I think there's a way I can actually blind everything. We're starting to, you know, this moving average is starting to create a bit of a bottom. Death cross along the intermediate term moving average. Obviously, this is kind of constant across the board. So, you know, this could be a little bit of a dead cat bounce type situation, where we're just kind of having like a last little, you know, lifeblood energy pump before we really take a step down. I'm not really going to take the Ripple external narrative stuff too close to heart. But again, I'd be really curious what caused this massive sell-off, especially going into all these very bullish things. I mean, most of the people that are really dealing with XRP are hodlers. So technically speaking, back to the main picture, I would say it's important that we haven't made a higher local high. I would say it's important that we haven't even made a higher local high relative to this one. Even with that trend line that was drawn, we did break it and come right back in. So I wouldn't say that invalidates the potential for an upside move. But again, this 50 is now starting to act like support, where this intermediate, the 125, is starting to act like resistance. So I'd be curious to see how we react in this space to the fundamentals, the technicals here, because I think that's what it's going to play down to. It doesn't matter how great of a commercial they have or what they say about MoneyGram or how ready they are to move. I really don't think they're ready to move. I think they say they are, but I mean, they don't have the volume. They might not even have the volume on chain that Bitcoin Cash has, which is, just about zero. So that's one of the things, is like a lot of these coins that say they're ready for real world use cases and such really aren't being used. And so the only way to see if they're going to make it or break it is, to get massively adopted. And I'm not talking about hodlers that are, just diehard hodlers. I really want to see, I want to see proof of stake fail or not. Not that I'm a fan of it, but at the very least, we'll know whether or not it stands on its own. And we're still waiting a little bit of time before we can see stuff like that on some of these top 10 coins, and XRP being one of them. I would say it's important for us to see whatever real world use case is trying to provide. I want to see if they do integrate, whatever they've changed the name of XRapid to, obviously they're doing a lot with their changing the titles of some of their services. So I just really want to see what XRP actually does. Do they do it well? Does it scale? Of course, they say that they can handle the volume, but are there any bugs associated with it? We're only going to know when all this actually happens. And I thought MoneyGram was going to be our test of all that.
Absolutely, and use case that you mentioned there, right? That's the huge issue within the space. Is what is that as a whole? But I would like to go back. I know that I said last coin here, and it wasn't a lie. But when we were speaking about Bitcoin before, you mentioned that you went from a bearish to bullish, right? A bit there. I was wondering what number, what was it exactly that made that transition for you?
The exact thing that made that transition is the fact that this cannot be. That I just don't see a scenario where this was only Tether exodus. I mean, even if this was, I don't think billions of dollars could move a price from 7,300-ish to 10,500-ish. That's way too big of a price move for me to put all the blame on one scenario. So it's, I think it's very possible that this is a massive accumulator, something like that. And if that's the case, then demand, that tells me that demand is very strong for this asset at this price, at least by someone with a lot of money capable of influencing the market like this. Not to mention, of course, when you have a big move like this, you're also triggering stops. You're making it so that that even if you're the one spending the money, there's also money entering the market, because the stop buy means that a certain condition is met, a certain price point is met, and then you're in the market, right? So of course there's a lot going on, but I can't blame this all on Tether. And so considering that fact, that tells me that there's room for some sort of organic demand for Bitcoin. And if that's the case, then that's the switch. That's the switch to a bullish scenario. If there's organic demand, whether it's, even if Google Trends doesn't express it, if there's someone out there that's willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on Bitcoin, and obviously, we saw a big rise across the board, then that means that that this might be a silent money time, where people don't give a F about any of these external narratives. It could just simply mean that people want this asset no matter what. And we've seen that all the time. We saw people buying all over the place at any price point. So that's the number one thing that's making me switch from a full bearish position to a bullish position right now. My bearish position was very justified all the way up until we had a 30-40% pump in a single 12-hour period of time, whatever it was. That's enough to change my bullish my bearish mentality. The fact that there was so much buying in that space that it couldn't have, the bulls were exhausted. We saw how much money they spent at 10K. We saw how much money they spent at every other price point. There's money that entered this market, and there's no doubt about it. And I really need to know where it came from, who it is, and that would really help strengthen my case.
Okay, and all that being said, is there a number, what number would you call it now? We're in a bull market.
Well, we already hit it. We hit 10.5. You know what I'm saying? Like we just sliced through all these. We created some points of resistance on the way down, and we just sliced through them all. I mean, if I was to get really bullish, okay, if you were to say, Joe, where do you get bullish to a new all-time high? I would say 12.5. 12.5. I would be super bullish to a new all-time high. Now, if we go lower first, I would prefer that. I would prefer a low where we build support along the way and then go to 12.5 or something like that. And then obviously that would mean that we've grinded our way, created support, built a nice foundation, and 20K and even 6-digit Bitcoin is on the table. I mean, six-digit Bitcoin is on the table right now. Months, you know, like considering what happened just the other day, 6-digit Bitcoin is not a pipe dream to me anymore. It was a pipe dream a week ago to say, oh, McAfee's decline is on point. You know, but anything can happen, as we see, and like that, this is enough to make you reevaluate anything. So 12.5 is my main bullish picture. If we do pull back, I wouldn't mind to see some sort of consolidation and a real pullback and the building of support along the way. But it's very possible that 7,700 was that for certain investors, and we're now on our way to 6-digit Bitcoin. It could very well be the case.
And with those wise words from Joe Saz, we'd like to thank you for joining us to break that down today. For all you folks watching at home at BLOCKTV.com, keep on watching for more cryptocurrency and blockchain related news.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.